Geno, the mastermind behind the Imagined Order, a master manipulator, and the Dark Voyager's master. But what if I told you that Geno has been watching us for the last 4 years? Before we get started, remember that this is just a theory and nothing is official. This is the story of how Geno has been manipulating the events for the past 4 years of the Fortnite storyline. Chapter 3, Season 2. In the collision event, the Paradigm uses the new mech to fight against the IO, with the goal to destroy the Collider. After getting saved by Peely, she attempts to deliver the final blow to the Collider when the ground beneath caves in and the mech falls down into the ground. This is where we see the 0 point. The Imagined tackles Geno into the 0 point, but at the time we didn't know exactly what happened. We eventually defeat the IO and free the 0 point from the Collider when the 0 point shows Geno. Jones and the Foundation jump in an attempt to follow and end Geno once and for all. A few days later, we discover what actually happens in the Marvel Comics. After Jones and the Foundation jump in, they find Geno and the Imagined slowly deconstructing. They think that this is the end of Geno forever, and after Geno and the Imagined are fully deconstructed, Jones and the Foundation leave. They defeated the IO, but at the cost of losing one of the Seven's members. But what they didn't know is that after they left, Geno started piecing himself back together, eventually being fully reformed. 2 seasons later, in Chapter 4, Season 1, we hear of the Shapeless Man. He manipulates the mind of Riftward and Stellan, forcing him to have vivid dreams and nightmares. He uses this power to make Stellan build the Rift Gate. Stellan is part of the Oathbound, the first version of the Imagined Order, led by a snapshot of Geno called the Ageless. Geno created the Oathbound and left this snapshot to rule it. The next season, as a result of the Rift Gate, it brings in Mega City and the entire Japanese biome. In Season 3, as a result of Mega City crashing down onto the island, the whole middle of the island falls in and reveals a jungle biome. It turns out that this is where Dr. Sloan has been the entirety of Chapter 4, and she's now on our side and is fully against the Imagined Order and Geno. Now this is where things get entirely theoretical. In Season OG, we use Kato Thorne's time machine to travel back to the Chapter 1 island. The 0 point has been exposed once again and is now above Loot Lake, slowly dying and going dormant. Because of this, we devise a plan to kickstart it back to life by repeating the end event from Chapter 1. I think Geno was watching us the entirety of this season and Chapter 4, taking note of what's happening. When the Big Bang event happens, we repeat the end event, but as a result, accidentally shatter the 0 point into 7 shards. This is where Geno's plan takes full effect. Over the course of Chapter 5, he's watching us, studying us, and manipulating us. When Remix rolls around, Geno manipulates this new reality to be reminiscent of Chapter 2, with strange twists such as the rappers like Eminem. This is all to distract us from what's actually happening. Meanwhile, Hope and Jones are searching for a new reality to help, eventually landing on reality 783, also known as Onioshima. After they bring us to this reality, we discover that a 0 point shard followed behind us, reactivating the spirit realm. At this point, Geno is still watching us, and he has a new plan. We work this entire chapter to close off the spirit realm from Onioshima, when we learn that the leader of the spirit realm is called the Dark Presence. The Dark Presence took the 0 point shard when it landed on the island, making him extremely powerful. This is when Geno meets the Dark Voyager. He tasks the Voyager with rebuilding the 0 point and tells him that after Hope and Jones defeat the Dark Presence to take the 0 point shard. In Chapter 6, Season 4, Hope loses her visions. I think Geno manipulated her mind to try to stop her from seeing how the Dark Voyager arrives and rebuilds the 0 point. At the end of Season 4, the Dark Presence emerges from a portal onto Onioshima and throws us into another portal, taking us to Springfield Island. A month later, during the 0 hour event, we travel back to Onioshima and defeat the Dark Presence. After that, the 0 point shard takes us to the Golden Coast, where we finally encounter the Dark Voyager. Later that season, a mysterious rocket arrives on the island. This is an alternate reality version of the Visitor and a new member of R7. In Season 2, the Visitor fights against the Ice King with the Seven in order to gain their trust. During the Shattered event, the Dark Voyager combines all of the shards to make the 0 point whole once again. This is when we discover that the Visitor Reality Unknown is Geno when he shoots Jones. In Season 3, Geno is still posing as the Visitor, but the Seven and their allies are growing suspicious, and have discovered that there's a traitor working with them. Geno is using sprites to power the stabilizer in order to stabilize the 0 point. However, I don't think he's doing it to save reality. He's doing it to take control once again. My prediction is that once the 0 point is stabilized, he will reveal himself to the new 7 and create the new imagined order. Geno has been behind everything. His plan is coming together, and I believe that very soon he will be the omniversal superpower that he once was. Let me know what you think, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.